Hi class, I wanted to make a video. As many of you know, one of my friends was in serious critical condition and she did not make it. So her heart just wasn't strong enough and she didn't get enough oxygen when they were working on her. And so she passed away today. And so in the event that her funeral is during a Tuesday or a Thursday, I decided to go on and make this video for you guys so that there would be something for you to do on the day that I'm not there. I will let you know arrangements have not been made, so I will let you know as soon as I know about those arrangements. But I'm going to talk to you today about the appendix, which is what I had told you was the communication and organizations. They're calling it here the workplace communication and interviewing. So there is an interviewing section. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about both of these topics, and that's what we were going to do in class. Anyway, of course, this will be an abridged version of it, but let me tell you a few pointers that I wanted to tell you in this chapter. They talk about upward communication, and they talk about downward communication and also lateral communication. Upward communication being messages we send to people at higher levels of the organization hierarchy than we occupy. And of course, downward would be the opposite. Lateral communication, or communication that we share with our peers, or those that are in the same positions or similar positions than we are, not our bosses and not those that are under us. They talk about the grapevine. You've heard of that. And that is a metaphor used to indicate the informal messages that are conveyed in an upward, downward, and lateral communications simultaneously. Now you'll know a little bit more about that term. They talk about communicating to external audiences. Of course, consumers, potential members or customers, stockholders, the media, lawmakers. And of course, there's so much that could be said about this or those audiences. Your book just spends about half a page talking about them. So they just give you a brief overview and kind of just highlight that, of course, those are your external audiences if you are working in an organization. There's workplace culture. You know, every workplace has a culture of its own, and sometimes cultures are really productive and positive, and sometimes they're not as productive and positive as others. And sometimes you don't know until you actually start working for the organization what type of culture they have. Sometimes there's a good front that they can put up. And then other times you'll find that, you know, it's just a wonderful place to work, and the vibe that you received when you were interviewed is exactly what they are all about. So sometimes you're pleasantly surprised, and then sometimes not so much, and so you have to make changes if needed. They talk about workplaces having rituals. You know, we talked about families having rituals, of course. Well, workplaces do too, and certain workplaces do certain things. They talk about personal rituals, social rituals, task rituals. And they also talk about a little bit about technology challenges. Of course, technology, we've already said in this class, is a wonderful thing, and we can use it to our benefit, but it also can be challenging at times, especially when people are trying to, you know, say threats with technology and trying to break in and all those things. I can't tell you the number of trainings I've done on that very thing, being in the teaching profession. So it's something that you guys need to be aware of as well if you do work for an organization one day. Also, talk a little bit about work-life conflict. And they define that as the pressure of balancing the demands of work with those of, you know, your own life. And, sometimes the lines become a little blurred, especially when you work those 40-hour weeks and you have a lot of dedication to your organization. But of course, you have a lot of loyalty to your family as well. So it can be challenging. It highlights a little bit about workplace diversity and about being aware of that and being able to work with lots of different people coming from lots of different places. And some of you will work for global organizations. I know my husband does. And so literally there'll be people all around the world that you may communicate with at some point in time. It says to check your assumptions. Remember that being different doesn't mean being wrong, and to help others to adapt to different points of view. I was going to share with you what I was looking for a minute ago, is I was going to share with you, they had something in here about Pixel, and I'm trying to find it. No, Pixar, sure, excuse me, Pixar. It says Pixar Animation Studios in California. They're an unconventional place to work. To stimulate innovative, out-of-the-box thinking, company president Ed Catmull instituted Pixar University. The professional development program encourages risk-taking and invites irrational thought as avenues to creativity. To minimize stress, they actually have a physician and a massage therapist on site several times a month. And they have to get special permission for people to work more than 50 hours a week, which that's still a lot. But that's not something that they automatically allow people to do because they know that that's taking up so much of their time. So it's just kind of interesting. It says they have a cafe, break rooms with a pool and football tables. Foosball tables, and an open area for concerts and lectures. So that's just a kind of a different culture. I know there's also companies that have daycares on site. That's becoming more popular, and so that way your child is there, near you, and so they're not far away in some other daycare somewhere that you have to run and get to at a certain time, and so that makes things easier on their employees. All right, next we're going to talk a little bit about interviewing, and I bet you didn't know, but this chapter has an example of a cover letter and a resume, and so I hadn't really studied it. This was a addition to the book, so I hadn't really studied those to see just how good they are. But there's an example, and of course, there's many online. That you can find if you are working on a cover letter and a resume. And you already know what an interview is, but it breaks down some different types of interviews: appraisal interviews, problem-solving interviews, exit interviews, and counseling interviews. So an appraisal interview is a discussion focused on an employee's performance and goals for the future. Problem-solving interview is a discussion conducted to identify solutions to a problem or conflict. It sounds like the name, obviously. An exit interview is a conversation about employees' experiences with an organization that he or she is leaving. And a counseling interview is an interaction aimed at supporting an individual through a personal problem. So there's, of course, different types of interviews. Check out that resume and the cover letter. It tells you to remember that the cover letter makes that first impression. Sometimes we work so much on our resume, but then we kind of just gloss over the cover letter, and they literally see it first. So it's important to make that, a really good cover letter as well. Clearly identify the position you're seeking. Be focused and concise. Use a tone that is confident but not arrogant. And tailor your cover letter to the job posting and the employee's needs. It's really important. All right, for the resume, of course, you need your name and contact information. The employment objective, it says education, employment experiences, skills and interests, and references. So that's the one that's what they have on here. You'll see different ways to do it, different ways to lay it out, and all those things. And sometimes you just have to select what you like best. So it reminds you to check your online persona. So to make sure that there's nothing online that they could see if they're looking for you, because many future employers will look you up on social media, that there's nothing on there that could be questionable or things that they can think would not be a good representation of their organization. Talks a little about questions, anticipate open-ended questions, closed-ended questions, hypothetical questions, and probing questions. And you know, Mississippi State has an interviewing class. It was my favorite class when I attended Mississippi State in the communication department. So it was very challenging, and we had to literally interview in front of our classmates. So it was not easy, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And so you could check out that class if you're interested in learning more about effective interviewing. It says to generate some questions of your own. Ask questions that allow the interviewer to reflect on his or her own experiences. So get to know a little, actually ask them about how they like working at the organization. Ask questions that indicate your long-term interest in the job. Don't ask for details about the company that you should already know. So don't ask things that they should think, I should already know that. Why would they ask that? And do your research about the organization so you can have some knowledge going in to it. So it won't just seem like, a general interview. It'll be something, it seems like that's a job that you know something about, the organization. You're eager to work for the organization, that particular organization. So, like I said, that's the end of that chapter, and I just wanted to create this video in case it's needed. And I don't know the arrangements for my friend, so we will see how Tuesday and Thursday, it would just be either or Tuesday or Thursday that this would be needed, and you'll just watch this during the time when we would be in class. But I hope that you guys have a good week, and I should see you one of the days at least. Thanks. Bye-bye.